In a quiet fishing village by the eastern coast, life followed the rhythm of the tides. The smell of salt and drying nets drifted through the air. Gulls circled lazily above. And the sea was both the villagers' livelihood and their greatest danger. Among the cluster of wooden houses stood one slightly smaller than the rest. Here lived Arun, a boy of 12. Arun wasn't like the other boys in the village. While most of them raced through the sands chasing crabs or balanced easily on narrow fishing boats, Arun was quiet, cautious, and a little afraid of the sea. The others teased him for never joining the fishing trips, for preferring to watch the waves rather than ride them. His father Raghavan was a fisherman, tall, strong, with sun-darkened skin and hands rough from handling nets all his life. He wished Arun would be braver. "Son," he would often say, "the sea only respects those who face it, not those who hide from it." Arun would nod, but deep inside he wasn't sure if he'd ever feel that kind of fearlessness. It was late in autumn when the incident happened. The day had been strangely quiet. No wind, no restless waves, just the gray sky hanging low like damp cloth. By evening, the fishing boats had gone farther than usual in search of a good catch. Arun was in his small room, drawing shapes in the sand on the floor, when he heard his mother talking urgently with a neighbor. "The fog's rolling in fast," the neighbor warned. "It's the thick kind. You can't see your own hand in front of your face. The fishermen won't find their way back." By the time Arun stepped outside, the world had turned ghostly. The sea and shore were swallowed in white. The lamps in the village glowed faintly, but beyond a few meters, everything vanished into the mist. The older men began talking about lighting the signal fire on the cliff to guide the boats back. But there was a problem. The firewood near the cliff was wet from an earlier drizzle, and the main lamp used for signaling was broken from the last storm. Hours passed. Nets lay piled on the sand, untouched. Families gathered near the shore, calling out names into the veil of fog, but their voices were swallowed by the damp air. Arun listened for the familiar, strong voice of his father, calling, "I'm home," but it never came. His mother's worry turned into quiet trembling. She kept glancing at the horizon as if the fog might suddenly part and reveal their missing boats. One of the older fishermen said, without a light to guide them, they could drift further out. By morning, the currents may take them far from shore. The thought hit Arun like a stone. He pictured his father somewhere in that endless whiteness, searching for the shoreline, each passing minute pulling him further away. As the village elders argued over what to do, Arun remembered something from months ago. A festival night when the temple had used a huge oil lantern to light up the path for pilgrims. The light had been strong enough to be seen far out on the water. Arun ran back to his house, searching. In a dusty corner, he found an old iron lantern. Its glass clouded but unbroken. It was smaller than the temple lantern, but sturdy. He cleaned it quickly, poured in the little kerosene they had, and struck a match. A small golden flame blinked to life inside. But he knew a single lantern on the beach might not be enough. It would have to be placed high where the fishermen could see it, maybe on the cliff itself. The cliff, though, was a dangerous place at night. The path was narrow, rocky, and with the fog covering everything, one could easily misstep and fall. Aaron's heart pounded. He had never walked to the cliff alone, let alone at night and in such mist. His mind told him it was too risky, that someone older should do it. But looking at his mother's pale face and remembering his father's words, something inside him shifted. Maybe courage wasn't about not feeling fear. Maybe it was about moving despite it. Clutching the lantern, Arun stepped into the swirling fog, following the faint memory of the cliff's path. Each step felt uncertain. Stones rolled under his feet, and thorny bushes brushed against his hands. Sometimes the fog was so thick he could barely see his own fingers gripping the lantern's handle. The light made a small golden circle on the ground, but beyond it, the world was just gray void. Halfway up, Arun heard the distant crash of waves against the rocks below. His stomach twisted. He told himself, one step at a time. Just one step at a time. He slipped once, skinning his knee, but bit back the pain. Rain, damp wind lashed at his face, carrying with it the strong smell of seawater. His arms ached from holding the lantern steady against the gusts. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the jagged shape of the cliff's edge emerged from the mist. Arun found the old stone ledge where the signal fire used to burn and placed the lantern there. Shielding it with his hands from the wind, the flame wavered, then grew stronger, casting a halo through the fog. At first, Arun couldn't tell if it was working. The fog shifted and twisted in the light, but nothing else moved. He stood there shivering, staring into the gray for what felt like forever. And then, there. A faint splash of movement in the distance, like shadows inside milk. Slowly, shapes began to emerge, the curved bows of fishing boats, one after another, moving toward the light. Aaron's heart leaped. He waved his arms, shouting though he knew they couldn't hear. The boats drew closer, guided by the small, steady glow of the lantern. When the first boat reached the shore, the villagers ran to help pull it in. Then another boat arrived, and another. The air filled with the sound of voices, relieved, grateful, alive. Aaron's father was on the third boat. Soaked to the bone, he jumped out, dropping his net, and swept Arun into a crushing hug. "It was you," he murmured against his hair. "I saw your light through the fog. My brave boy." That night, by the crackling warmth of the cooking fire, Arun sat between his parents as his father told the others what had happened. How the fog had been so thick they'd lost all sense of direction. How some thought they'd drifted too far to find their way back. It was the glow of a single lantern on the cliff that brought them home. Arun listened quietly, feeling a strange new warmth in his chest. He realized his knees still ached, and his hands were scratched and bruised, yet he felt lighter than ever before. His father placed a hand on his shoulder and said for all to hear, "You don't need to be fearless to be courageous. You just need to care enough about something that you'll face the fear anyway." Years rolled by. Arun grew into a strong young man, taking his place on the fishing boats and later managing his own. Storms still came, and seasons sometimes brought lean catches, but Arun was no longer the boy standing at a safe distance. Whenever challenges rose, whether it was steering a damaged boat back through rough seas or defending his fellow fishermen in a trade dispute, Arun remembered that foggy night. He remembered the feeling of his heart pounding, the cold sting of fear, and the way he moved forward anyway. In time, villagers began telling the story to their children. How, on a dangerous night, a boy carried a lantern through the fog to save the men at sea. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It is the decision to move forward despite it. It's the light we choose to carry into the fog of uncertainty, trusting that it will be enough to guide us, and perhaps others, safely home. Sometimes, even the smallest flame, when placed high enough, can become a beacon in someone else's darkness.